another video. Well, sorry. It's the way it's worked out. So anyway, just in character again. There's much literature on the subject. You can't, can't you make a counter argument specific to my argument? I mean, really, this is just so bogus. There's no literature on my theory, idiot. Alright, so you have to make you have to demonstrate some experiment that proves me wrong in some way that says my explanation of the circumstance is somehow completely inferior to the bent space, bent time bullshit. I'm giving you an explanation that unifies all forces. All forces. Do you hear me? All forces. All forces are a ton of some kind, okay? There's some sort of bit, okay, that crashes into some other fucking kind of thing and causes some kind of fucking effect. There is no such thing as an invisible force, a thing that goes across something and makes something do something. There's no spooky action at any spooky fucking distance, alright? And I'm giving you that description, and what I need from you is some evidence that there's some fucking experiment or some fucking thing that we see in the universe that demonstrates that can't be true. You're not doing that. Well, I begin with a simple Wikipedia page complete with references. Yes, like I haven't been there before already, jackass. I know more about this fucking experiment than you by a long, long shot, and you're just being... it's gratuitously... How dare you just presume yourself more informed? How dare you in the first place? That's just so fucking obnoxious, you douchebag. You can't do this simple thing of presuming for a second maybe somebody else is right about something, and before I presume myself smarter than them, I should maybe have something called a piece of evidence. Alright, but anyway. Or else view this nice explanatory video. Okay, so let's go to a stupid fucking another, let's go over it again. But this video is so fundamentally flawed in so many ways that you're just like, well, why are we doing this? Why should I bother? Oh, this one was a good one. By the crazy imperial shitwad. So he's obviously one of these, these Tesla nuts. All this would be not a terrible idea if you understood that it's not just forces, okay? That there's little spinning things inside the material, and that this ends up being the eddy, or the wake created by the things all spinning in some polarized manner, in some opposite manner. If you took it a little deeper, you might be able to figure out there's a machinery to it, okay? It's just not some magic blobby force that just comes out of nothing and just, oh, the force does everything. Everything's made out of some force. Do you think that? How the fuck do you think that makes any sense? You don't think it has to have some sort of mechanical reality, you fucking idiots? It's just all magical forcey thing? It's just, you think this hatches out of an egg? You really think so? The egg just pops one of these things out of nothing? Come on. The origins of the universe have to be much simpler than that complex pile of goo, idiot. I just hate these guys. Alright, so this is a nice, Yang Zhang Try. Anyway, nice, it's good to see women doing math and such. But anyway, but what she says here just doesn't make, on its surface there's errors, and I call them just errors because on the surface, okay, she uses the same exact equation for single slit and double slit. And this isn't really double slit because she's going to say later double slit really is inside of the single slit, which is, kind of ironic. So this doesn't make any sense because obviously they don't use the identical equation with the same D number. Okay, so this is not what happens in the equation. So just because, so she's going to give an example of a single slit and then a double slit made out of two single slits. So the dimensions, fundamentally, this slit is half as much as this slit in a way. You can understand the double slit is like this wide with a slit in between, and the single slit is only this wide, kind of a thing. The single slit is two double slits. It's with a problem. So obviously the single slit is really a half wide slit by that math, even though like I said, they don't do the math the way she has written it here. You would never use identical formulas because you would get identical results. I mean, there's no way this could possibly work. You can't. You have to have a 1/2 in here somewhere, or you have to change these D numbers, and she used the same D number, so that wouldn't work. So the thing to understand, this difference, if you just understand that all they have to do to make this look like this is widen the slit. So as I make the slit wider, the single slit, these will start piling up on each other. Alright, just like this. These will just start piling up, piling up, piling up, piling up. So as I make the slit wider, I get, this is what it ends up looking like. Yes, it's more peaked, but I just mean you'll get this high frequency. Well, this will be converted into that. So if you have as much slit open as in the two slit, in the single slit, you'll get this frequency. You'll just get it with the double maximum in the center because there's no slit blocking the center, quite obviously. So it's just so simple and obvious what's the difference is. And so they do it, like I said, this is sort of a distortion, because all she had to really say was, well, she does say it. She says it in this, watch the video. I'll link to the video. And you can just watch it for yourself. There's math in it, and there's, it's not terribly interesting, but it's only 7 minutes and 48 seconds long, so it's not that big a deal. I mean, I play it, but it's just, there's no point in me saying, well, you're not accounting for, and she can't hear me, so there's no point in me saying it. Yeah, so that's the key difference. And again, with laser light, this equation was written when they were still using light through an aperture. So it was light that was more intense in the center and less intense at the fringes. So obviously the central maxima would be higher. But with laser light you can truly see that yes, it's still twice as wide, but its height, the amount of light it consumes, is much less, and these peaks are much brighter. So again, I can only say, look, you go to the MIT lecture, and you'll see it with a green laser, and he has a slit he can adjust. I mean, there's a video from like 1965 of a guy doing this. You make the slit narrower and narrower, it gets wider and wider. But all you had to do is move the target closer and closer, and you'll see that it'll go back to looking like this. So I mean, this is very deceptive. I won't go back to looking like that, but the point is that the amount of it's counterintuitive. The wider you make the slit, the narrower the pattern gets. The wider, narrower, and it's that people aren't getting here. Is that if this is as wide as the double slit, the total space in the double slit, so the total open space, if you make this single slit as wide as two slits here, this pattern will look a lot like this pattern, except for the center. And clearly that's a defect of the surface change. So what's really happening in the two slit, they should be just renamed. There should be the two surface experiment, which would be the single slit, and the four surface experiment, which is the double slit. It's about the surfaces. So this is one of those things where, again, my prediction is, look, they have laser beams now that are really, really fine, right? Because they write on, integrated circuits, and they use lasers to write on stuff all over your heads of pins and shit. So if somebody knows where I can get a really tiny pinpoint laser, nanometers round, little tiny beam. But you can't really do it with a regular laser. I can't. If I put an aperture in front of a regular laser, I diffract the light, and I end up with a coned light. I don't want that. And I'm just saying, if you take that pinpoint laser and run it along the edges of the two slit experiment, so just take the slits, just run the laser across the edges at say three widths, you'll get this pattern. You'll know exactly what slit it went through. You'll know exactly what it's interfering with, and you'll get the fucking pattern. That's my prediction. Okay? No photons going through two slits, no interference whatsoever. Just do a time-lapse photo, run the laser across the edges of the slit, and this is what you're going to get. That's my prediction. Alright. So let's move on to the comments. This is so irritating. Alright, so this is some idiot. I'm just just delete this. Some Greek guy who's upset because I insulted the Greeks. Just from the first 60 seconds, I understood I have nothing to learn from you because you are an absolute retard, and not a good one at that. Ancient Greeks were dumber than you because they didn't have flushing toilets. Really? Your ignorance of history and history of science is phenomenal. They built complicated structures. Again, that's not my argument. I didn't say people didn't do really well for their ignorance, but frankly, I mean, they didn't know what microbes were. They were, they were giving women terrible infections during childbirth because they didn't know simple sanitary, truths about reality. Their great irrigation and whatnot systems were, you throw your shit in the road and there's a little stream that takes it away. I mean, it's not exactly brilliant. I'm just saying that, look, they did some things right, but I'm just saying they were profoundly uninformed about the mechanisms of our universe, and that's just a fact. And I'm not going to take, when they say there's 4 elements, fire, water, wind, and, light, I'm not going to take that seriously as science. Come on, that's astrology by comparison. And to sit there and get lost in worrying about what they said 2,000 years ago, almost anywhere on Earth, is pretty much a waste of time. Okay, because it's probably got anything that they had any close to right, probably has so much voodoo in it that it's just not worth figuring out what was actually insightful. And none of it, I'm just saying every bit of what they have we can reconstruct from our position now with telescopes and microscopes, which they didn't have. So I'm just saying it's just silly for me to sit there and say, let's go back all the way 2,000 years and sit there and try to figure out what reality is. We have a huge advantage. You have to acknowledge the advantage. I'm not trying to insult your ancestors, idiot. I'm just pointing out that there's no reason for me to think good science starts 2,000 years ago. It just doesn't. It starts with really excellent hardware that we have now. You start with microscopes and telescopes. You don't waste your time going back into the past and saying, let me pretend to be ignorant and try to figure out what reality is. It's a waste of time. A waste of brain space. And you're an asshole. So, goodbye. Alright. So this stupid Dana Cat Loves Me, who's a real asshole, hasn't commented in years, but whatever. I mean, this is stupid derp. E equals mc squared is special relativity. I really don't understand how bent space-time requires you to believe that matter is energy. It has nothing to do with it. The two ideas of bent space-time and the fact that matter is made of energy don't have anything to do with each other. And my point is, the fact that you idiots are doing that is going to be the very downfall of your silly theory. Because the wrong premise that energy is affected by gravity is stupid, because you don't understand that gravity is made of energy. You can't affect energy with energy. Energy doesn't play that. So the fact that you were stupid enough to believe that energy could be affected by this magical force gravity, because you didn't understand that gravity was actually energy, because you put it in a fake dimension where you just bend and warp things to create energy to make things move. You make planets move by bending non-existent fake dimensions. So of course you're not going to get it right. But I mean, fuck you, cunt. This is just a stupid, ignorant thing to say. I mean, it's not even derp. Derp? How exactly does bent space have something to do with matter being made of energy? How exactly does it have anything to do with that? Oh, that's right. It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just a stupid, ignorant, motherfucking cunt thing for you to say. Anyway. God, fuck. Dumb masses. Let's see. Haha, I want to be a comment slut too. Well, don't try it here. Haha, this was great. Well, that's really uninteresting. Thanks. The obtuse nonsense is highly experimentally evidenced. So you say there's high experimental evidence for your mathematical vacuum spaces, which have more to do with the fact that you've wrongly described the model. So again, if I argue that anytime you talk about a singularity or compressing matter as small as like put the whole universe on the head of a pin, you're just fundamentally violating what energy can even do. Energy won't do that. Electrons won't do that. None of these things will do that. You have no experimental evidence indicating they will do that. Go ahead, show me where you've compressed 10 electrons into the space of 1 electron. Show me where you did that somewhere, shithead. Because it can't be fucking goddamn done. Alright, so you're an idiot if you think those fake worlds exist. They don't. There's one field, okay, and it's made out of what I'm saying the generic ton is a quanton. It's just a thing, a dot, a speck, and it moves the speed of light in a straight line in a direction. A photon is one of those things with a polarization and a frequency. That means they come on the same trajectory, okay, so it's quantons moving on the same path, okay, with the same polarization. And then a magneton would be the same thing as that without the frequency part. No need for frequency, but it has to be the right polarization. And every single force is going to be an element of that ton. It's going to be a ton somewhere. There's no fucking fields that aren't made out of those tons. Idiot. So, yeah, I'm going to delete your comments until you learn how to do it right. That is, you post 1 comment, not 14, 1. You watch a video, you take some notes, whatever, you be polite, and you post 1 fucking comment that has all your little jerky points in it. I mean, this isn't that complicated. I mean, you really don't. You don't show up at somebody's house and just walk in the front door and say, oh, okay, I'm going to go walk in the front door. Okay, I'm just going to keep opening and closing your fucking front door because I have to keep announcing myself. And yes, every time I walk in, you have to say hello to me and give me some cookies. Fuck you. I'm sorry for being rude. I don't think you are. I love to talk with you about your theory. Well, you have to make salient points. So, I mean, what can we possibly talk about? You seem to wish to only defend your silly theory. I'm going to defend my silly theory. Therefore, there won't be any conversation. I'm sitting here pointing out how your silly theory is flawed, fundamentally, and catastrophically. Especially the lensing shit and the two-slit nonsense has huge, gigantic flaws in it. Alright? And you don't seem to want to address any of those issues. You're not going to explain to me why that's the way it is. Yes, it does look, it appears exactly like that. You're not going to account for it. So what's the point? I'm arguing that time dilation proves my theory. Okay, because it's perfectly consistent with this slowdown in metabolism, quite obviously. So all the evidence is out there verifies my theory. It doesn't validate yours, it validates mine, and mine unifies, idiot. Mine doesn't have all these problems. Anyway, point taken regarding time links. Well, the other point I'm going to make to you is you do this in 1 comment. You don't do comment, 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 comment. You do 1 fucking goddamn fucking comment, fucker. Alright, div equals divergence. Well, divergence and convergence are just playing with goddamn words, and it really doesn't mean anything. There's no such thing in nature as a divergence, so you're not going to win with that one. It just doesn't. There's no such, look, all there is push. There's no such thing as pull. And everything is just a manifestation of changing the balance of the push. So yes, you can put the push on the inside or you can have the push on the outside, but the push will be somewhere. How else to say this? But this idea of a vector field, I'm not playing this, okay? I'm not talking about abstractions, I'm talking about reality. Alright, so it's not a vector field, it's a quantum field. It's a field full of energy. It's an energy field. The universe is all energy. All of it. Okay, except for the empty space, of course. But who cares how much of that there is, because it's nothing. So the nothing doesn't really matter much. But it's the energy in the universe that's pushing the earth into the sun. It's not something in the sun, it's not something in the earth. It's something outside both of those that are pushing the two fucking things together. So most of the energy in the universe is in this invisible form we call gravity, magnetism, electric force, charge. These are all that field moving. And we see the movement when there's something called imbalance. When there's balance, there's no visibility. You can't see it. When the field is balanced, nothing fucking happens. The checker just sits there. Okay, but the field's got an imbalance in it, the checker moves. Shit. Alright, so yeah, I'm not going to bother with that stupid little useless qualification. I read your paper in which there's not a single equation or evidencing example. Well, again, by single equation, what am I supposed to be undoing exactly? I'm sorry, I just don't understand what utility rewriting equations would be. Certainly the inverse square is in there, but I'm just saying, what do I need to, what equation do you want me to write in the paper? I mean, we've already done the math. My argument is the math is a model, and it all depends on variables. So what I'm saying is the math for lensing is wrong because you're not going to bend light. Okay? Now, yes, if photons were electrons, then you go ahead, apply Einstein's math to an electron. Okay, but it's not going to work applying it to a photon, because a photon is not an electron, it's not matter. A photon is energy. Energy is not affected by gravity. So that equation's in the garbage. You want me to just say, okay, that equation's in the garbage. Well, the equation isn't. The variable of assigning a mass to a photon, well, that's in the garbage. So what else? Like I said, what do you want me to reconstruct? The whole point of having a unified field theory is to be consistent with all the existing math. What value would the theory have if the existing solid math didn't fit the theory, idiot? How would that make any sense? I'm not saying 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4, you idiot. That's not my challenge. My challenge is that the thing you think is creating 2's and the thing you think is creating 4's, or what the 4's are made out of, that you have inaccurately described. Again, all Einstein did was describe a convergence Newton already knew existed. We already knew that gravity existed. Did Einstein change gravity in some way? Did he change any of Newton's formulas pretty much? No. He added to them a little tiny bit, but that's it. There was nothing revolutionary. It's a description of the convergence. Well, we already knew it existed. He didn't explain where it comes from. He just created an abstract fake dimension to sit there and say, that's what it is. It's made out of that fake stuff. Bent space-time. There, he created a fake energy-producing dimension to describe the convergence we already knew existed. I'm telling you, I'm describing the same convergence, but I'm explaining it with a real force, a real thing. Something that exists in this universe. Fuck. Of course, in order for anyone of substance to take your of substance, that's just amazing. You mean the liars and the phonies who have been propping up their seriously flawed theories for decades now? They can't honestly describe the two-slit experiment. Every time they describe it, they talk about tennis balls making blobs on one side. They never point out that, oh, wait a minute, you can make exactly the same pattern with a single slit. Just make it wider and it'll get tighter. Fact. But let's ignore that. Let's not show them the single slit pattern of a single slit wide, and then the double slit next to each other, and see the tiny minor difference. Right, the center bar is twice as wide and 4 times brighter, but it's going to be actually less than that if you use a laser beam. So let's just pretend that isn't a huge. The biggest fraud perpetrated in science documentaries today is the grotesquely inaccurate description of the two-slit experiment. Let's just pretend that isn't happening by your people of substance. I say they're not people of substance if they're living on a fake premise and a false argument. Some connection with the very well evidenced and explanatorily successful. See, again, you're saying it's explanatorily successful. I'm saying the obvious failure is in their lensing photographs as it exists. They have never duplicated the 1919 experiment. You have an explanation for why they haven't? We have Hubble telescopes, yet even on Einstein's motherfucking 100th anniversary of his motherfucking theory, they still couldn't reproduce the experiment, even for a birthday present for Einstein. That doesn't mean anything to you? That's not evidence of something to you, you idiot? So you say that's very well evidenced. They did an experiment in 1919 and never repeated it. That's very well evidenced. And then I've already gone through all the galactic bullshit of how you can't possibly have lensing in the locations they claim the lensing to be, because there has to be intensely strong gravity in those locations, and if there was intensely strong gravity in those locations, those fucking celestial bodies would be moving the speed of light in 27 fucking days. What's your counter argument? Must be described, and some examples must be included to show why the theory is correct and the others not. Well, I've already provided the examples. It's mind explains gravity, magnetism, inertia, and time dilation. All of it. It unifies every fucking bit of it, and it does it consistent with all hard evidentiary science. Now, yes, if you're going to say there's multiverses, okay, fuck you. My theory doesn't cover multiverses. So if you think it's an absolute fact that they exist, yeah, I got no explanation for. I got no help for you. So if you're going to tell me I have to accept that gravitational lensing happens because it's absolutely proven, and so therefore the field can't be energy because obviously the energy is bending light all over the goddamn place, well, I'm saying that's not happening. If possible, show conclusively that your theory explains something that the current model doesn't. Well, I mean, fuck, you say you read the paper. What? Where does the current model unify gravity and magnetism and photons and redshift and inertia? Where does it do that, fuckhead? I mean, this is just such an outrageous statement to make. If possible, show conclusively that your theory explains. Well, I can't show it any more conclusively than draw the motherfucking pictures. Explain how, well, look, it's this simple. Magnets polarize the gravitational force, and by polarizing it, they magnify it. Fuck. And perhaps give some predictions. Well, I have predicted. I've predicted that your lensing is going to be proven to be a fraud. It's the brontosaurus head. It's on the wrong dinosaur bones. It's a fucking piece of crap. I'll prove the two-slit experiment has nothing to do with magical photons deciding to go through two slits and then interfering with themselves. None of that shit is happening. It's just goddamn surface diffraction. And, I'll find more and more ways to prove you idiots, okay? So, but I'm just saying that the point is that all the math is consistent with my theory, and so I don't really have to abolish the math. I just have to abolish your silly interpretations. But, I mean, I really can't prove string theory's a fraud, because obviously I can't prove the whole universe isn't made out of bubble gum. But I shouldn't have to. And perhaps give some predictions and an online on how these predictions might be evidenced experimentally. Well, I've already done this and been there and done that, and I'll say it again. I have lots of ways to do the two-slit experiment to demonstrate that that has nothing to do with no photon going through both slits and interfering with itself. And I think one of the ways it'll be done is, I think this little micro laser idea is this should be really doable. Just run the laser across the four surfaces in the two-slit experiment, and I'll guarantee you'll get a diffraction pattern. I'll guarantee you'll get a pattern to look just like your silly interference pattern, and you'll know it won't be interference because there's no way it could be interference. Now, I mean, you'll know it went through one slit. There was one edge you went across. Again, it's a surface experiment. It's not a slit experiment. It's a surface experiment. Alright, some guy's confused, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because you really... Alright, so this is just so another grotesquely insulting pile of shit. So, yeah, you're just going to keep getting deleted for this kind of shit, asshole. Yeah, because you really are an analog of Einstein. What with your incredibly evidence theory? Again, what was his evidence of bent space? What was his evidence of bent space? Where? And bent time. Right? One of his best buddies goes out and does a telescope experiment that everybody knew was a little bit suspect. Right? And an experiment never repeated to barely demonstrate some idea that light bends in gravitational fields, which is a little bit silly in my opinion anyway, that you're saying it's gravity when you're shooting the light through a high energy field. I mean, obviously the sun's corona is a completely dirty place to be shooting light through anyway. But besides that, what evidence did Einstein have? What? 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 Alright. Evidence theory being poised to revolutionize all of physics. Well, again, I don't even care about revolutionizing. I just want to make it fucking accurate. Physics is as described in the quantum bullshit they have made up and the woo-woo and this nonsense. Their contrivance of dark energy, dark matter, dark this, Higgs boson creating this, doing that. All that shit is crap. Alright, all this Copenhagen multiverse shit is all shit. So the only revolution I want is physics that has something to do with reality instead of all this made up fucking Jesus bullshit. It's a fucking goddamn religion. So coincidental. Yeah, fuck you. I'm just saying, what's going to be the payback, buddy? Right? I mean, you type this shit on my video, so what's going to be your humiliating penance when I prove you to be an asshole, just a silly, stupid troll? You'll just say, oh, sorry, my bad, right? That's all I'll get. You know? So what kind of honor? You know, in the old days, when you dishonored yourself, you know, when you did something dishonorable, you know, you had to go fucking Harry Carey or something. You had to go say, wow, yeah, I'm a shitty human being, quite obviously. So what's going to be your... I just want to know what your penance is. What kind of fucking torture are you going to impose on yourself for being an asshole? A motherfucking obstacle to the truth. Isn't that all you're doing? I mean, if I'm right, then you were just trying to be an impediment, right? Trying to just be an obnoxious, trolly impediment. So, fuck you. 2 words. Predictive success. Predictive success. My cell phone works. See, I love this crap. I mean, as a kid, I was doing electric experiments. You know, this is before integrated circuits, you know, when they just had transistors. They didn't have ICs yet, you know. And it's just such a crock of shit that all of this crap needs quantum theory to be invented. It's just a crock of shit, okay? They were trying to make transistors that didn't get hot. They were doing experiments, and that's what these guys did. They did experiments. They, you know, changed one thing, and then they plugged it in and saw if it blew up, and then they'd try something different and plug it in and see if it blew up. But they weren't doing theoretical physics. They were doing on-the-ground experiments to find out what would work. If you think otherwise, you're a deluded idiot. And this requires phenomena that appear in quantum mechanics. Well, again, what it requires is somebody to do the experiments like Edison would say, 99% perspiration. That's what it takes. It takes a lot of experiments. You burn up a lot of fucking filaments before you find the one that works. Which don't appear in any other theory. Well, yeah, i.e. tunneling. There's no fucking tunneling, retard. So yeah, that's another one of your delusions that are never going to be realized. There's no shortcut to the truth. You're not going to find, oh, I don't have to bother doing the math, right? I'll just tunnel to the answer. I'll just tunnel around the equation to the answer. No, you won't, asshole. There's no free lunch. Tunneling is like perpetual energy. It's just some silly notion that there's some shortcut I can take, and there just isn't. There's no faster than light bullshit. None of this shit is going to happen. You're just a deluded twat and a rude one to boot. So fuck you. So again, learn how to be minimally respectful, or you're just going to keep getting fuck you'd. So anyway. So if anybody knows where I could, you know, even, you know, if for $100, I don't mind spending $100. If I can get a really tiny you know, I want a pinpoint laser, real pinpoint. I mean, small little, like the size of a period. Okay, the size of a period. I want a beam the size of a period, and I'll do the damn shit fucking experiment myself. All right. So anyway. Enough. So, till next time and such.